And I'd love to know where you are from in DC. Just a little bit about you.
I'm from Brooklyn. I went to Bunker Hill,
Very cool.
then Deal, and then high school ended up at Elizabeth Seton,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
a private school in Bladensburg.
Number one, Deal Prize, because I went to Deal for middle school. I'd love to know about your experience in the arts, just from the beginning.
Pretty early is when I started to be involved in the arts. Even as a kid, I was in an organization called the DC Youth Ensemble, led by Miss Carol Foster, the legend. And in college, I really did a deep dive into like audio production, music production, and all the music that I created in the lab at school. All those songs allowed me to put out my first project.
Did you have any musicians in your family? Were you the artist, or was it a whole thing?
Oh no, my great grandfather was a pianist. His name was John Malachi, and he was the band leader at Bohemian Caverns, which most recently closed, but he played quite famously for Sarah Vaughan and a bunch of other vocalists.
Oh, come on.
So it's in the blood. And he taught in the jazz department at Howard University, and I teach now at Howard University.
Come on! She's making music and she's teaching y'all. She's doing it all.
But I teach audio production.
That's awesome though.
It's really important for, it's really important for Black people, especially Black women, to know that we belong in technical fields. And so even though I'm in the School of Communications, I take really a lot of pride in making sure that women of color, students of color, feel comfortable with the gear and feel comfortable knowing that there's a place for us in the industry.
Honestly, I'd love to talk to you just about being a woman and a woman of color in that field. I'd love to know how you got started.
You know, it's very common, it's a common occurrence, you know, among folks having the Black experience in America. If you're interested in music, a lot of us start out in church.
Yes.
Right, whether that's being a musician or a vocalist. I was also in the choir at my church, Union Temple Baptist Church in Anacostia, but I really didn't enjoy choir so much. What I did enjoy was being up in the control room that was basically ground zero for all of the sound and all the lighting. So a lot of times during the services, I would actually be in the control room learning how to run a console. So shout out to Mr. Dennis there for teaching me. But you know, I was 12 when I started doing that, and that made me very comfortable transitioning to a digital space in undergrad. You know, just working with my first digital audio workstation and using that to create. I think I've always been sort of a teacher. I'm the first of 3 kids.
Cool.
So when you're the oldest, you know, you're kind of teaching everybody how to tie their shoes and whatnot. So that is just a part of who I am, and being able to bring technical audio skills to students at Howard University, it's really it's such a privilege and an honor.
Yeah. You mentioned before that you started off with just creating in general, so I'd love to know what you've created. Like, this is kind of a moment to flex.
Well, Sydney, honestly, the music that I created in undergrad, I did so when I wasn't in the classroom and obviously wasn't in basketball practice, right? So I decided, I chose, right? Because I couldn't dedicate my time to ball and to music. I wanted to. Actually, it's more accurate to say my coach chose for me. She was like, look, it's either your internship and your music or it's basketball. And, you know, I kind of said, well, it's not going to be ball. Even though ball is life.
Even though ball is life. Music is also life, and that is what I want.
Exactly. So is business. And then at the time, I was heavily involved in both. I was a business major at my undergrad alma mater. And I put out my first record, which was called Revenge of the Smart Chicks. And then I put out a second record. At the time I was living in Baltimore and like very much was involved in the spoken word scene.
Cool.
And there were bands and band leaders around. There was a band at the time called Fertile Ground. and the leader of that band, a guy by the name of James Collins, let me bring my record to the club, Eden's Lounge, where the spoken word event was held. And I listened to it in that sound system, and it didn't sound good to me. So I put the record out anyway because I'm an artist and I had something to say, but I chose for my next record to work with more established producers and engineers. And that decision was critical because it led to a song from that record receiving a Grammy nomination. So it's a song that I wrote and ended up like
Grammy nominated.
Yeah, it was really kind of crazy that happened, and it really endeared me to the Recording Academy, which is the organization that produces the Grammy Awards. And I learned a lot. That award is a peer voted award, meaning other musicians, other producers, other engineers vote for your record. And so for that song, the song is called Orion, and so for that song to have found or have curried favor with other members of the music community, that was really encouraging. And I think slowly I moved back to just being behind the board. I went back to school, got my master's in audio technology from AU.
Very cool.
And now I'm mixing records for other people and producing my own work, and I feel much more complete as an artist.
I cannot believe that the minute I said please flex, you didn't go, well, a Grammy because bomb. That's amazing.
Well, a nomination.
Hey, a nomination that's amazing. I'd love to know some artists who have inspired you in life, whether it is old music that you have come out with, new music, or just music you like. I'd love to know what you're into.
That's a very long list.
Hey.
So I'll share who I'm most inspired by at the moment, and it's Roberta Flack.
Really?
Roberta Flack, I think Sheryl Crow, and definitely Tom York. 3 of them. And then I have a friend who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. His name is Jabulani Sambo. He's from South Africa, was from South Africa. I'm very much inspired by his work and how much he reached into his cultural bag and merged that with different styles, different mainstream styles. So I'm definitely pulling lessons from having known him and worked with him into this next project.
That is awesome. Now this could be a secret. This could be a secret that I'm going to ask you to share with me. You say that you help mix for other people.
Yeah.
Who you want? Can you name drop?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna say, since this interview will come out at a certain time. So there's an amazing band.
Yeah. Their
name is Black Folks Don't Swim.
Cool.
And we're just about finished mixing their record now, and I'm not even in the band, and I can't wait for y'all to hear this record. It's amazing. So definitely want to shout them out for sure.
That is awesome. Honestly, the excitement that you just had of this is maybe just a super simple question, but when it comes, do you get very excited for other people's music when you mix it? Yes. when you're on their team mixing it, you're like, this is it.
Yes.
You're
yes, because one, I love mixing records. I love knowing that an artist has recorded something and they're confident in that vision, and the only my job as a mix engineer is just to make sure everything performs. Right. So that's it. It's not an easy job to do, but it's fun, and I love focusing on that. But also, especially understanding what a good mix can do for a local artist, right? And there's so many local artists and local bands who don't take the time or aren't able to pull the resources together to get good mixing and good mastering done. And often that is the only thing separating an artist who makes a local record from an artist who makes a record with a label. Just the sonic quality, the patina of the record, right? So just knowing that I've been able to have a hand in helping an artist produce music that can compete sonically with Bad Bunny, that can compete sonically with Drake or with anybody who's out there in the mainstream, right?
Yeah.
That feels good because it means that music from my home has a chance, has even more of a chance out there. So yeah, I get very, very excited.
No, I love that, especially since DCMS, a lot of it is about it is about the DC music industry. It's about kind of indie style in the sense that you don't need to go to a label
no, you don't.
to make your stuff the quality and to the level that those things you can compete without signing a contract to a major group. You don't need to be signed at the same place that Ariana Grande and Beyonce and all of them are signed with. You can do it from the comfort of your home and you can get the same quality stuff. And I think it's great. This is very interesting. You are a teacher, so you've had to keep up to date with like a lot of things and editing software and all of that. Are there any softwares and things that it's worth investing in to kind of teach yourself how to do things? Or are there things like computer softwares, or do you believe like computer software works but sometimes you need like a soundboard and something to attach to it? Or do you have any like quick lessons for the youth who would want to mix themselves?
Yeah, before you buy any gear, train your ear.
Okay.
Train your ear and then ask me that question.
Right.
Because there's a way to listen to music as a musician, which is different from listening to music as a consumer of music, which is totally different from listening to music as an engineer. Right. So train your ear. That's the first thing you need to do, is train your ear. And I'm happy to do workshops and things on mix strategies, etc. But it is not. There are plenty of companies out there that offer like quick fix mixing and mastering. I mean, I advise against that because you won't be able to get, well, not to say you won't, but it's unlikely that the company that's just going to slap their algorithm on your record is going to pay attention to the nuanced moments that you want to pull out that matter to you. So I think honestly it's just always great to work with a professional who's going to do that for you. All that to say, there are scales of people, right? You can go to one mix engineer and that person's going to charge you $500 and they'll do a great job, but it's going to cost you. You might find a mix engineer who can mix your song for $100, but are you going to get the treatment that you want? So just try to find somebody who's going to meet your needs. If you need a mix done quickly, and if you need it done cheap, then it might not be good.
And that's the thing.
But if you need it done well, and you can afford to take the time to have it done, maybe you can negotiate a little bit. But honestly, I feel like there's a lot of room between doing it all yourself and finding an experienced professional to do it. The space in between is, I think, called negotiation. Where you learn how to talk to somebody about what you need done, and you're very upfront with them about the resources that you have to get it done. And if that person can't do it with those resources that you have, maybe that's not the right person for you. You just find the right person. But if you have, just take the time to get the art. Focus on the art first. If you want to mix your own records, know that you need to train your ears, and it takes time to learn the skill to do that. Time. Like the greats even think that they suck. And they've been doing it for 100 years. So it just takes time to develop the skill. But if that's something you want to do, then do it, because you can eat when you're not making records for yourself.
That's beautiful. Even with you saying that, I want to know, because I don't believe in it, the starving artist mentality.
I don't believe that.
Great. I was like, I don't believe in the starving artist mentality. Do you, when it came to you figuring out what you wanted to do, was there ever a time were you ever discouraged, kind of, since you wanted to move into an artistic field, of people saying that you're going to be a starving artist, you're gonna do this, you're gonna have to get a regular job?
Never.
No? Hey, that is awesome.
Never. I think because, well, not in my family. And my family history. We have musicians in our family, but most folks in my family are like entrepreneurs or educators, or have been in corporate, right? So when I said I wanted to pursue music, they just asked, they said, "Can you support yourself?" I said, "Yeah." And then they're like, "Well, great-grandfather did it, so it's in the blood." They were like, "Yeah, go do it."
That's great. Are there any words of advice that you would give to people when it came to starting a career in art?
Yes. So education is so important. There are many ways to get an education, and I think it's really important to get educated about the industry that surrounds your craft. For me, becoming a member of the Recording Academy was really just helpful. There was so much that I did not know about the music industry, how things worked. I was missing so many resources, and that was helpful to me. And that's an opportunity that I hope a lot of musicians and songwriters and producers and engineers really look at. Honestly, just knowing that, just allow yourself the grace to experience trial and error.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, have fun getting things wrong. Those are your opportunities to eventually find success. And there are just so many so many lessons that I've learned. I feel like even though I've been in the industry for a little while now, I'm still growing. I still kind of feel brand new at this. I meet people every day that make me go, there's so much more to learn.
Yeah.
And do. Like, I appreciate this conversation, and I know the audience for this is, artists or aspiring artists and aspiring music industry professionals. But I think if we're wise, we're always new. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's just something that came to my head. If we're wise, we're always learning. There's always something that we need to learn.
Yeah. So
that we can be better. This is not concise at all.
Hey, I get it. I get it.
Brevity is not my strong suit.
I bet you guys get it, because I get it.
It's not my strong suit. But yeah, just always be learning. No, always.
That's the line. Hey,
always be learning.
That was concise. Always be learning. That's the line, guys. That's the line.
Always be learning.
Hey.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you about getting your start in the industry as a Black woman. Mm-hmm. I want to know if you experienced anything different than we can assume your white male counterparts. I'd love to know maybe any struggles you went through in school, if any struggles you went through when you were starting off just in the industry in general, and how you pushed through those hardships at all. And if there weren't, hey.
I think I felt pretty isolated.
Yeah.
I'm just now starting to find community. And I've been in, this has been a 10-year journey, which sounds like an eternity, but it's really like a blink of an eye to me. But in that isolation, even though there were people around me who supported me, I had a pretty rough moment where I realized that all of the people that I was working with, I had developed really, really tight-knit relationships with, but there was always an exchange of value.
Okay.
Meaning I was always exchanging, dollars for skill, etc. And I really had to stop and evaluate whether or not everybody in my circle was really there for me because they wanted to support me as a human being, or because they really believed in the craft, or believed in what I was doing, or were they there because they saw an opportunity. And just running a couple of experiments, I learned I got some pretty clear results. And so I just took a minute to dial things back and, recalibrate. And I'm really glad that I did that, because now I don't feel pressured to take gigs that I don't really want to take. I have sort of adjusted my business practices to suit me. And I think earlier on, if I had known that I could do that, then I would have done that. But I felt compelled to meet people. I felt compelled to meet unreasonable demands, but I didn't know those demands were unreasonable. So this is why getting education and having a network and having mentors is important, just like it's important in any other profession. Those things are an asset to you as an artist.
That's great. You talk about networking and how important that is for you as an artist. Do you have any advice about how to kind of navigate through the world of networking as an artist, as a younger artist, and the things that you did to, in a word, test those people to know who are the right people that you want to work with? How do you find your niche, your niche?
So I shifted my strategy from being an artist in the business of art. I shifted my strategy from a retainer strategy to more of a you eat what you kill strategy, and that helped out a lot. So that's just one thing that I would now do off the bat. If you bring it in, you take a percentage of it, and then we move on to the next thing. As far as networking goes and building community, we're in a pandemic. Hopefully this is the tail end.
Okay.
Hopefully.
There it is.
So there's nothing like being around people. There's nothing like being on U Street. I really miss Bohemian Caverns and Live and just that whole corner, because you'd have 3 or 4 events going on, and during set breaks, everybody's outside just sort of talking and that mixing ideas. I don't know where that space is virtually, where people actually want to be, because we're all zoomed out, right? But I'm not sure what to tell an artist now who is trying to build community when we're not allowed to congregate, really. When the Save Our Stages Act just passed, but how many music venues across the country have been closed indefinitely now? So I think my strongest words for artists right now is just to create. Use your power. Your creativity is your power. You got to get creative now. And the way I started, I was just talking to my husband about this morning, just kind of thinking forward and thinking about who's on the other side of the cameras right now. And the way I started is very different from where you are now. And I had to get creative then, because I was in, just nobody knew me. What is this child singing about? Rainbows? And nobody knew me. I was weird to everybody, and I was weird to myself. And the thing that held me back the most in the beginning was I thought I was weird. I wasn't confident. So whenever I stepped into a room, I